All right, let's jump right in. There's a biotech company called Summit Therapeutics, and on their recent earnings call, they dropped a little piece of news that wasn't so little. It sent a jolt through the cancer research world because, well, something's happening with their new drug, and it's happening way, way faster than anyone saw coming. It all boils down to one single drug. But this sudden acceleration, it raises a huge question. So you gotta ask, right? What did Summit find out that made them slam their foot on the gas pedal? We're gonna break down the drug itself, the incredible data they have, and what's really at stake here. And here it is. This is the big news. Summit just announced that for their huge lung cancer study called Harmony 3, they've already finished screening a key group of patients. Now, that wasn't supposed to be done until way later this year. This leap forward means they can get a sneak peek at the data soon, which could totally rewrite the calendar for this drug.
So what is this drug that's causing all the commotion? It's called ivonescimab. And trust me, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill cancer therapy. Nope, this is a totally different way of thinking about how to attack tumors. Let's break down how it actually works.
Okay, so the technical term is a bispecific antibody, but a much cooler way to think about it is like a smart bomb, right? But this one has two different guidance systems. So instead of just one attack, it's hitting the cancer with a coordinated 1-2 punch, going after two targets called PD-1 and VEGF. So let's talk about that 1-2 punch, because it's actually pretty brilliant. First up, it goes after PD-1. You know how cancer is super sneaky? Well, PD-1 is basically the signal it uses to throw on an invisibility cloak, so your immune system can't even see it. Ivonescimab just rips that cloak right off. But at the exact same time, it's doing something else. It's also blocking VEGF. See, tumors are hungry. They need to build their own blood vessels to feed themselves and grow. Ivonescimab cuts off their food supply, so it's uncloaking the cancer and starving it, all with one molecule. It's a fantastic strategy. All right, the science sounds great in theory, but does it actually work? That's the real question, right? And this is where things get really exciting. Summit isn't just taking a wild guess here. They're making this big move because they are sitting on an absolute mountain of good data. 4. Just let that sink in. 4 massive, late-stage phase 3 trials are already in the books, and every single one of them, a win. Positive results across the board. You have to understand, in drug development, going 4 for 4 like that, it just doesn't happen. It's incredible. And we're not just talking about results from carefully controlled trials. No, this drug is already out in the real world. It's approved in China for 2 different uses, and get this, more than 60,000 patients have already been treated with it. That is a gigantic pool of real-world evidence about how safe and effective this thing is. Of course, to make moves this big, you need cash, a lot of it. And Summit is in a fantastic position. They finished last year with over $713 million in the bank. And maybe even more importantly, they have zero debt. That means they have the money, the firepower to push this forward as fast as they want, with nothing holding them back. And this is what really sets them apart. The company's co-CEO, Maki Zangane, said it perfectly. It's not just that their drug worked 4 times in a row. It's that it's the only one of these newfangled PD-1 VEGF bispecifics that has any positive phase 3 data. Period. Nobody else is even on the board yet. They're literally pioneering a whole new class of drugs. But here's the real kicker. It's not just that the drug works. It works better than the current gold standard. We're talking about Keytruda, one of the biggest blockbuster cancer drugs ever. In a direct head-to-head competition, ivonescimab came out on top. I mean, that's not just a small win. That's a potential game changer. And this thing just keeps getting bigger. The scope of their ambition is huge. Between Summit and their partners, they've got something like 15 phase 3 trials either done or underway. They're not just looking at lung cancer. They're going after colorectal, head, and neck cancers. The goal here isn't just to create one successful drug. They think ivonescimab could be a foundational platform therapy for all sorts of different solid tumors. Okay, so it all sounds amazing, right? But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It is absolutely not a sure thing. Despite all this momentum, there are some pretty big hurdles still to come. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. So here are the dates you'll want to circle on your calendar. First up, Q2 of 2026. That's when we get that early peek at the data from the trial they just sped up. Then, a huge one, November 14th, 2026. That's the day the FDA makes its decision on the drug for another type of lung cancer. Finally, in the first half of 2027, we should get the full final results from that big study. These are the moments that will make or break this drug's trajectory. Now, about that big November date, there's a catch, and it's a big one. The FDA has set a really high bar. They've said, look, it's not enough to just show us that you can slow down the cancer. They want to see proof that the drug actually helps patients live longer. That's called overall survival, and it's much harder to prove. It's a tough hurdle, and right now, it's the single biggest risk they face. But if they clear that hurdle, the potential upside is just mind-boggling. We're talking about a market, the one for the very drugs ivonescimab could replace, that's estimated at over $100 billion. So if this works, it's not just a new medicine. It's something that could completely upend the entire business of cancer treatment. So that brings us right back to where we started. Why the sudden speed? Well, it's because Summit believes they have it all. A perfect track record, tons of real-world data, and proof that their drug can beat the best of the best. They see a path, a tough one for sure, but a clear path to shaking up a $100 billion market. So I'll leave you with this question. Are we witnessing the birth of the next great cancer drug? Could this be the beginning of a whole new way we fight this disease?